Thank you for visiting the Sacramento Public Library. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
That's my cue. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can everybody hear me okay? I don't know why, but I expected a lot more people tonight, so maybe they're just on their way, or, I'm excited that you're here. For those of you that weren't aware, there was an exciting meeting about a week or two ago here with the CHP. Some of you I recognize were here, and they all said, we're going to be at your meeting also, and so I'm hoping they all come, because I brought some really special guests this evening to share the meeting and help bring information to you folks. Before we start, I wonder if we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So, this evening, I wanted to share a little bit about the survey that we had every year. For those of you who know me, since I was elected, we came out with a survey that we do at the beginning of every year, and it's kind of it's our way to learn from you how things are going in the community, how you feel about things, what are your priorities, what don't you like. And so this year we did our survey, and I was a little bit surprised in that the survey this year the response was a little different than it had been for the last several years. And how it was different is that the priorities shifted a little bit. And so I'm going to go through the survey really quickly because I have a feeling we're going to have a very a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to the Q&A part of the meeting. So I wanted to let you know that Antelope represented 16.4% of the survey, which is really great, a great response from Antelope, so thank you. How many of you, this is your first time here? And thank you for coming. Did you hear about it with a postcard or? Okay. Okay, so for those of you who learned about it through the postcard, we generally send out a couple hundred, we can only send out so many postcards, so we send it out to over here, and then if you come and you like it, you can sign up. Did we bring registration forms, Vicki? This is my secretary, Vicki, everyone.
Hello.
Vicki Lee. And so what we're going to do is pass these around. If you're already getting my newsletter, don't worry about putting it on here, or if you have an update, put it on and write update. Because that postcard won't necessarily come next time. So that's how you can be notified. And also just to kind of give you an idea, hi, welcome. To give you an idea, the newsletter, I try to make it short and sweet so that you'll want to come back and read it again. It's hopefully an easy read. Sometimes it's reporting back on something I voted, why I voted the way I did. If I voted no, why did I vote no? Or it's regarding issues that I think you might be interested in. And so it comes out once a month, and I try not to overwhelm you with emails. So if you're, and we don't share your information with other people as far as your private information. So just to give you that. So I wanted to say, some of the questions that we asked were general, overarching questions, like the first one, is the county going in the right direction? And my newsletter goes out to my district, but it also goes out to a lot of people who've signed up throughout the county. And so the overall county felt that Sacramento County is definitely mostly going in the wrong direction, 59.3%. Antelope felt like mostly definitely wrong direction, 62.7%. And the overall district budget priorities, this is what really surprised me. Welcome. Come on in if you want, or you can sit there too. The overall district budget priorities, I want to say for the county, 29% thought law enforcement was a top priority. Roads was 21%, and homeless was 19%. And that was the overall county. Now for Antelope, 35.3% thought law enforcement was the top priority, budget priority. Homelessness came in second at 22.8%, and roads and infrastructure at 21.7%. That was a shift. That was a significant shift from before, because before it was always homelessness, housing, roads, or public safety. But public safety floated to the top this time. Would you consider moving overall? The overall county, 62.8% would consider moving. In Antelope, 67% would had considered moving. Why did you consider moving? The top reason was homelessness at 14%. And then there were a couple of other categories that just a couple people, like cost of living, crime, roads, a few people, or a combination of all these was 58%. But what I thought was interesting was that what made you consider moving, none of those that we listed was 15%. So there was a large number of people who said there weren't any of those categories: homelessness, cost of living, crime, roads, all of the above. There was something else. And in my other, I'm going to ask you, Is there, can you think of another reason why people might consider leaving? Anyone?
Leaving California, period.
Traffic.
Traffic? Okay, in other meetings, they talked about taxes. That was one of the things that got brought up. So I thought that was interesting. Yes,
Leaving the state.
just leaving the whole state, yeah.
Politics. Yeah, politics.
Politics. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Law enforcement, the level of, were you happy with the level of police protection? How did you feel about police protection? 52% of the respondents claim that police protection has decreased over the last 3 years. 44% say it stayed the same. The types of crimes, what would you say are the primary types of crimes? And they kind of, burglary and robbery, and then drug-related crimes floated to the top. And then opinions about policing, 77.8% in Antelope want more police patrolling. I'm going to say on the fentanyl crisis and how to best combat it, 61.3% felt that we should work at getting the suppliers and the dealers somehow stopping the dealing. On homelessness, there were several questions around homelessness, and what is the most effective way to reduce homelessness, and 31% felt that enforcement would be the most effective way. Provide mental health services was 7.6%, build more housing 2.2%, provide drug rehab 2.7%, all of these 48%. So homelessness, there was a broad range of ideas about how to tackle it, which makes sense because homelessness is so complicated. On roads, there were 57.4% that feel our roads are not very safe. Most serious problem with the roads was potholes at 52% plus, and sidewalks 1.6%, lack of speed bumps 5.9%, all of these 33%. I want to just quickly share with you that when I was first running for county supervisor in 2016, I met with the Department of Transportation and the budget manager for the county. I think I did it because I was so scared about that debate and I wanted to somehow figure out what was going on so I could answer questions, but I just, all my life have been in finance, and I figured if I knew the money, I could learn a lot about the county. And at that time, Department of Transportation had, in 2017, had $450 million in deferred maintenance on the roads. 3 years after that, we came back with $795 million in deferred maintenance. We have DOT here. He's looking, Lou is looking at me, I'm sure, saying, oh, why do you have to tell this story, Sue? Right, Lou? And this year, we checked back with our Department of Transportation, and we're at $840 million in deferred maintenance. Now, this is something that Department of Transportation has been coming to us and saying, we have to maintain the roads because how many know about the pavement condition index and how we measure the condition of our roads? So a couple people. So pavement condition index is measuring the condition of the pavement, and it's a measurement of 0 to 100, and if the PCI gets below 56 point some %, that's considered fair, and Lou can correct me if I'm wrong. And once you get down to fair, that's when the road begins to move more. It's starting to crackle. You'll see little spider, it'll start breaking apart and disintegrating basically. And once it gets to that point, you can't just overlay a nice beautiful new overlay on top of it because it's moving And any kind of movement or the weight of the cars or the moisture breaks up the new overlay, and it doesn't last long. And so once it gets to the bad condition, you almost have to go down and take the entire road down to the dirt and redo it, and which is exponentially more expensive to fix. That's kind of a simple way to say. I remember when I was elected in 2012 to the city council in Citrus Heights, and at that time, the federal government was handing off a lot of the road cost and the maintenance to the states. And then since then, the states has basically, there are a lot of new laws around environmental regulatory regulation that changes the how we make our roads, and also changes, you know, the design of our communities and the land use. And they don't want us to just overlay a road. They want us to create walkability and bikeability and community, and you know, they want something. It has to be something different on top of that. So that's an added cost, and it's also a condition. I call it the color of money. In order to get money for roads, you have to be doing those things. So just the simple money for just maintaining the roads, there's not as much money for that, because that's not what the money wants to do. The other challenge that we have, I'll get you in just a second, is that it's not just the road infrastructure that's deferred in our nation, not just in California, but nationwide. It's water and electric, and there's a lot of underground infrastructure that is also coming to that point in its life cycle that it has to be fixed or replaced or updated. And so a lot of these things are it's a challenge to work in collaboration with those different water districts and those other utility districts to fix them at the same time, so that we're not fixing the road and then cutting into the road to fix a water problem down below, and now we have a break in the road. So it's complicated, and it's important. It's really important. It's getting to the point where people are frustrated around the roads. So I wanted to kind of give you an update just on that, the condition of the roads. Now, I'm gonna invite Lou up to, I want to introduce Lou with the Department of Transportation. He is one of our experts who agreed to be here tonight in case people had questions. Did you have a question, sir?
Oh, we'll let Lou speak, because he has to deal with roads and so on, and monies and so on. What's happening to the tax dollars that we paid with gas and so on, because it's not being, you know, utilized back or put back into the community. I mean, we go and we pay, you know, our due.
Did we bring the big map, Vicki? Oh, yes, we did. This is a map that my staff a few years ago, they had SB1 on the ballot, and the reason I'm showing you this map is this was the, you know how I said if you follow the money you learn a lot about an organization. This was an example of the SB1 and the, you know, the budgetary flow of money, the administrative flow of money to different areas. And so when they do it, a lot of times when they do these tax increases, they'll try to get everyone to sign on, and someone will say, well, if you give a little to parks, I'll sign on, and if you do something for the library, I'll sign on. And so this is going through all these different departments to get to, you know, the roads and to whatever else got written into that ballot measure. So that's why it's really important. The reason I'm showing you this is because if you don't read the small print on tax initiatives, and a lot of you know me as someone who, a lot of times I don't support tax increases, It's not because I don't want the money or that I don't want to be a good sport and, you know, help everyone get the money. It's really about, I have a certain way that I look at taxes. I have some conditions that have to be in that in order to make it something I can support. Number one, it has to fix what they said it was going to fix. It has to sunset when it's done fixing that. It can't have some kind of a small print clause in it that says that after 5 years, the board can vote to change how the money is allocated. It has to go, there can't be any little escapes that can redirect the money in a different way than what the taxpayers thought they were getting when they voted for a 30-year tax initiative. And a lot of times with these things, that is what can happen. And so the truth is, we have gotten a lot of money. We have gotten some money from SB1, I think it's fair to say, but the administrative cost, as you could see, anyone who has been in a business or run a business, the administrative cost around that is huge. And that's where a lot of the money is going, is the administrative cost that policymakers are building into things like this. And so, I don't know if I answered your question. I think I got to rambling.
No, you didn't. I mean, it is, and I understand that, but that's why we have elected officials to go ahead and be there, represent us, and speak in our behalf, and do their due diligence to make sure, like, you know, we have to drive sideways and sometimes try to, you know, avoid accidents because of people that are trying to go ahead and you know, go through potholes and so on, and if you go through Watt or Walerga, any of the streets in our neighborhoods, I mean, they're full of potholes and so on. So
Yeah, I can tell you that in my district, my priority around streets, DOT will come to me and they'll say, what do you want to prioritize? And I say, I want every area of my district, like Antelope, North Highlands, you know, every area of my district to get love, okay? And then I want that love to go on streets where the most people drive, so that more people are touched by the love. Instead of, so there could be a street, there could be a small neighborhood that's, the street is going back to the dirt. That might not be where I go for it. Might go for a road that people are commuting on every day, so they don't have to drive on a war zone every day on their way to work.
Is irrelevant? Is that what you-
Pardon me?
The little guy is irrelevant?
No, I don't think that. I think it's more my rationale, and tell me if I'm wrong, because how do you pick which little guy you're going to fix? I mean, it's so expensive. So I try to pick repair.
The biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You said it perfectly. Biggest bang for my buck. I mean, that's kind of the rationale, but my hope is that somehow, someday, we'll have, this will turn around. I'm not quite sure how that will work, but we're doing everything we can. And the last 2 years, the county has allocated an extra $20 million out of our general fund to just to roads, so we had money that we could match with other, as matching fund with other grants and SB1 and other things like that, where our DOT could try to get more done. And I'm going to let Lou talk a little bit more about that, because he's more the expert than I am.
Okay, thank you. My name is Lou Lee. I'm from Department of Transportation. I'm a civil engineer. So I think Supervisor Frost did a really good job summarizing the payment program. I'm just going to do an overview. Maybe I'll touch on a few things. I can add a little more to it. Basically, the pavement maintenance program is funded through SB1, and annually we're getting about $20 to $25 million to get these pavement AC overlay project on these main street that we're prioritizing in Supervisor Frost District 4's area. But in the last 2 years, we got additional funding that equal to about 62.5 million approved by the Board of Supervisor coming from general fund to do extra work out there, AC overlay project. So those are the main two sources of funding for the last couple of years. The question you asked, I think, also touch on like gas sales tax, some of that funding. Where does that go to? They go to a variety of maintenance programs, but part of it do go to the pavement maintenance, but not for AC overlay project, but rather is for pothole repair or spot repair, where you have to, the water seepage get down to the base of it. Now it's no longer just go seal the cracks and repair the pothole. You got to basically saw cut the whole section and get down to it and repair the base, and then pour a section of asphalt on top of it so they can last a little longer. But with the funding, we really want to overlay the project on these type of pavement surface, and so it will last for the next 10 to 20 years at least. Those are the ideal situation. But we're not getting the money that we need to keep up with the maintenance on the pavement on these major roads and even in neighborhood street roads. So the county pavement maintenance backlog is greater than 800 million, as Supervisor Frost mentioned at this point. So about, 5 years ago, it's about half of that. So it's, because it's not keeping up with the maintenance, so the further time, the longer time you wait to maintain it, the payment just getting worse and worse. That PCI index that was talked about earlier, just getting worse. When it gets worse, it takes more money to go repair it. So it just never ending kind of loop going there. So we'll continue to repair the potholes and spot repair so when it's needed. So that's one of the strategy. And other strategies continue going out for some of these grant opportunity, whether from the state, for the local government agency. Recently, we applied for a couple of funding from regional government. Unfortunately, we did not get it. It's a grant cycle every 2 years. It's a SACOT grant. And last year we got it, last cycle we got it was in 2021. We got 16 million for overlay projects in the county. So this year we're implementing those. So it takes about 2 years to implement a project. So this year we're implementing those 16 million overlay project. So next time we'll be in 2025. We're going for more grant application to hopefully get more funding on that. So that's part of that. I just want to highlight some of the project we did in the last 2 years. Some of you may notice out there, they're not many, but they're all along the major routes. So you can see that definitely driving Elkhorn Boulevard from 2nd Street to 6th Street. That's was paid in the last couple of years. Antelope North Road from Antelope Road to Poker Lane. There's another stretch we overlaid. Walerga Road from Alberta Road to North Loop Boulevard. We overlaid that. So there are a few other projects up and coming this summer, even through to next year. So Antelope Road North from Olive Avenue to Green Valley Drive. Elkhorn Boulevard from 32nd Avenue to Watt Avenue. Elkhorn Boulevard from 6th Street to Dry Creek. And then Watt Avenue from Don Julio to James, and then also from Don Julio to Elkhorn. So basically from James all the way up to Elkhorn going to be overlay. That will likely come in by 2024 summer. So that's kind of the quick overview on the AC overlay project and the pavement maintenance side of things.
Question for you. When you were talking about the 62 million additional money,
Yes.
Is that for District 4 only or Sacramento County?
It's countywide.
Okay,
So,
so that's
yeah.
not a lot for the entire county. Those were examples just of this district.
Yes,
right?
yeah, the project I listed only for this area, Antelope area and District 4.
I mean, that's really not a lot.
No, no. Like I said, the backlog is over 800 million countywide. So it's
That's only a
62.
third of what we spent on the homeless last year, 181 million in the county.
Yeah,
So one-third.
yeah. Homeless is such a lot of money.
And just another question, just curiosity, is if you know, how come Placer County they're always repaving their road? I know it's a different county, but it's a newer area, Roseville and all that, but
Yeah.
they're constantly, there'll be a road that's been paved like 5 years, and 5 years later, they're paving it again, and we have roads that are 35 years old that have never been repaved. What's the difference between how Sacramento County is ran maybe and Placer? How come they always have so much money to put towards roads compared to what we're doing? I know Sacramento County is bigger, but
Yeah.
any idea why they're able to do so much?
I can't speak directly to what Placer County is doing, but I can give you some general idea. The infrastructure repair and maintenance is countrywide issue. There are a lot of infrastructure payment deteriorating, the bridges, deteriorating type of situation. Well, all city, county all deal with the same issue. So Placer County might be a little ahead of the curve, but you see some of that new payment, if you see it that often, could be, do you notice adjacent lands being developed? If the land's being developed, we put it on the developer to bring that road up to the standard. So we're doing the same thing too. It just depends on where you drive. If you go out to some of the outer skirt area in the county where development is happening, you'll see some of the newer road because they are conditioned to bring those roads up to standards as well.
So one of the streets that you mentioned up there, Don Julio, that has just been developing. You're taking credit for the developer?
We require the developer to bring that payment up to standard, repaving, yeah.
And that is sometimes what is the obstacle to getting more rooftops, more housing, because in some cases, the first developer into an area, some of these outside areas around Alberta are a good example. They could have $30 or $40 million in road infrastructure that they have to put in, and they can't figure out how they can pencil that and then wait for years and years for other developments to come in to help share the cost of that. It ends up being an upfront cost to the developer that's an obstacle to building homes.
There is something argumentative. I had to take my car to the shop and I paid well over $1,000.
I don't feel like you're being argumentative
and
at
get it
all.
repaired. The streets that I drive through here in Antelope are full of potholes and so on. So, that's why my special interest, and I'm pretty sure there's many.
I want to ask if everyone knows about the 311 phone app. If you do not, Vicki has a card of 311. Oh, it's right here. You can download this app on your phone, and you can actually, if you see a pothole, you can take a picture of it and it will capture the GPS location. You can write a quick note and send it off. If for some reason you do that, the county responds as quickly as possible on those potholes because they don't want people's cars to get hurt. But if you don't hear from them, call my office, and you can get a card from Vicki tonight. Call my office and we'll reach out and try to help connect you with the right people if this is not something or something that's frustrating or whatever. Some people are not the phone app type people, but some people really like this because it's quick and you don't have to wait on the phone.
You do it on a computer too?
Pardon me?
You can do it on your...
Yeah, I'm sure you can. You can pass these around in case, or we can pass them around.
Yeah.
I have a question. Yeah. So you said that you guys covered from Poker Lane to Antelope Road on Don Julio. Was that the builders that did it, or was it the county that did it? Because all the new homes that came off of Titan Drive, was that the county that paid for it, or was it the developers that paid for it? Okay, cool. Okay, so that's why they got a nice road over there.
Yeah,
There you go. Okay,
Yeah.
just asking.
We try every opportunity.
Oh, you're good with
Money,
that, yeah.
unfortunately, it's very expensive to build houses, but at the same time, we gotta look out for the taxpayers' money,
good with that,
how
yes,
best to.
I have
to
a
use
question,
that.
Lou.
Yes.
Someone was asking me a week or so ago about that bridge, that narrow bridge you turned down. Is it what, and is it Alberta? On Alberta, it's a narrow bridge that has to be lifted and widened. Alberta and 28th? Who, are you the one that was asking about that? Yeah, oh, you knew it, yeah. Do you know which one? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, Alberta.
Is that on the?
Oh, Alberta 28 by the golf course.
It's an expensive fix, it's an expensive fix, but I thought it was coming up, that we were
Yes,
nearing.
we'll widen that road all the way to, I forgot the next traffic signal or next street.
It's a nightmare, it's a
To the west.
nightmare blog,
Yeah.
traffic jam.
That's a transportation project to improve that road and widen that road all the way to the next traffic signal to the
Do you
to the
know
west.
when?
I believe if this summer it should be coming up, and because the
I
bridge.
thought it was nearing
Yeah,
getting the funding for it.
yeah, I think that I need to double check on the timeline, but the bridge definitely going to be widened because the bridge involvement it just simply takes a lot longer, and the money is a lot. The project funding is a lot more because the bridge is involved going on Alberta west of Watt Avenue on that section. Yeah. But
Did you have something you?
I just had a statement, you were talking about
And
why
then you're
Roseville
next.
has so much money. I saw an article probably about 2 years ago, they were saying that it's because of the Galleria Mall, that they get so much tax money from the mall, the city of Roseville, and all those buildings around it, all the businesses around it. And it's just loaded with businesses out there, so it kind of
true.
makes sense.
Yeah,
And then Sunrise Mall closed, so we don't get anything for that.
yeah.
If I understand the point of view showing that map, it's all the administrative costs that you're showing.
Well, that's my opinion.
Right.
I mean,
And
I just think it's not very efficient. It doesn't seem efficient. I think it's more efficient if you have a dilemma to go after the dilemma and put everything toward it and then cut off, when you're done fixing it, cut the tax,
no,
sunset it.
and I get the point of that. But what I'm wondering is what can you two do to cut that administrative spending, getting rid of these administrative jobs that don't do anything in particular besides maybe just pay one person $100,000 a year. And instead, we could be using that money towards roads, towards other things.
I think that's a really good question. I don't think, I don't have as much power as all of you do. You elect me to represent you, but when I go there, I only have 1 vote out of 5. So, and at the legislature, it's even worse. I mean, it's even less power because there's so many. And so I think the way to bring common sense and bring the pendulum of common sense or fiscal responsibility or fiduciary responsibility back to our policy is in vetting those people that we elect, in listening to what we say and watching what we do and then calling us out when our walk and our talk don't match. I think if the people, and the hard part about that is that the average citizen is working so hard on the treadmill of life, trying to just survive, the data input and the job and raising kids and everything. It's kind of, it's like overwhelming to do that, but there are organizations in Sacramento that, the Taxpayers Association, their biggest thing is they're not against taxes, they're a nonpartisan association, but they basically are watching what are these taxes doing, watching what's in it and doing the studying around it and trying to, make people aware of what they're voting for, because not everyone has time for that. But I really think, we can try to, I personally feel like as public servants, we have a responsibility to spend taxpayer dollars in a prudent way. And I take that really seriously. I was self-employed most of my life, so I know what it's like to have to go sell more or cut the budget on what I'm spending. There were a lot of times when I was driving in fact, I'm driving my husband's old truck right now, tonight. But there were times when I was driving the little orange Datsun and my employees had the nicer car, because I was trying to figure out how to make ends meet with my company. So that's how you do it, but government doesn't always, it doesn't always work that way, and so it's up to citizens to let us know you're watching us. Even if you can't come down and do a public comment, if you send an email, submit it as a off-agenda comment or call in for an off-agenda and say, you know, I'd really appreciate if, you know, whatever is on your mind, let us know. How you communicate with us is what lets us know if we're representing you well. I'm seeing a lot of frustration in every area of my district. It's kind of like a growing tension in the last couple years, but I think a lot of that is just because, you know, of the pandemic and everyone's been isolated and it's been a stressful time for everyone, and I think it's getting better now that we're back together and we can talk through things. But I think the real power is with the people, but the people don't, they elect us and send us up there to do it, and they don't pay attention to what we're really doing.
My whole thing was, can we somehow get a picture of that or whatever, or find it somewhere on the web?
You can take a picture of it. It's outdated. It was the original SB1, but since that time, I can already tell you, since that time, within a year or two of SB1, the governor came out and redirected some of the SB1 funds. I think it was something like 500 million or something like that. So I don't know that, I think it's a little out of date, but you can absolutely take a picture of that. We got it from the state capitol. My staff did a couple of years ago. We'll hold it up so you can get a picture of it.
Have you ever seen a breakdown of, say, the taxpayer puts in $1 for taxes, and of that dollar, part of it goes to a general fund or part of it goes to whatever. Starting with that dollar that's actually given by John Doe or whoever, and taking it down from $1 to the actual point at which it's to be used, how much of that dollar reaches that spot? It's like 10 cents?
I can tell you, I saw a picture of one of those dollars the other day in an article I read. 49% went to education. 49% out of that dollar went to education, which really shocked me. And then there were a whole bunch of other little things under that. I don't have a picture of it with me, but just saying, I don't have the exact, I can't respond accurately.
It'd be
But
interesting to see how that breaks down, actually, how much of that dollar actually goes to where it's supposed to go. Because when they pass these bills, AB or SB or whatever bill they want to pass, and it comes up to taxing the people, and the people pay it, they want to know that whatever they're talking about, like you said, they don't read the fine print. We're not an attorney, we don't understand half of this stuff. So you pay the money and you expect these things to be fixed, but then like you said, there's so much fat added to that initial bill by everybody else that wants something else added to that bill before they'll vote for it.
it's a question of how much do you need to get the job done. In 2014, we voted for $1.2 billion, if my memory serves, to increase water storage. Remember? We still don't have that. We still don't have that dam. We don't have the dam yet.
Well, we have a train to
We're still working on it. That's a long time ago.
Which dam?
No, it's sites is the one they've been kind of focused on, but we still don't have sites.
Was the money for that diverted somewhere else?
I think generally the public's frustration is this. We got 40-something thousand people in Antelope and all these people in the room, and they're paying 50 cents a gallon at the gas pump when they pay, when they fill up. You could literally bring me all those quarters to my shop and I'll tack weld them together and we could pay the Antelope in quarters. Listen. People are frustrated. We see the money being diverted to stuff like My office is right across from light rail. I see that train transporting air with empty cars all day long. If I was in your shoes, that'd be the first damn thing I'd shut down, or at the bare minimum, it would not be running every half an hour. It would be running once an hour at peak.
You can
and
see
be
through
shut
all
down
the
during
paint.
the day. What's that?
You can see through the paint wrap that they have?
Oh, that's nice that they, when people started complaining the trains were empty, they immediately tinted the windows so you could see them.
There was a lot of.
Sorry, I had to say it, I couldn't help myself.
There was a lot of, yeah, they wrapped it, all that kind of stuff.
I'm gonna,
Literally, you could pave these streets in quarters, literally. I've been here 30 years, and I haven't seen much going on. You know, the repair project, he said, yeah, those have gotten done, but that's not much for 30 years.
Okay, so let's not beat up on him because he just works here.
No.
I'm the one, it's the politicians that are really making it, I think, hard on us.
Yeah, if he gets handed a certain amount of money, it only goes so far. It's just like going to Walmart. If you got 200
Yeah.
bucks, that's your budget. But I think people want to see the budget change. I think, you know, we're spending 20 million on roads this year and 181 million on homeless. Why should flip-flop that? Spend 181 million on the roads and 20 million on the homeless. Because we've got over here though, we've got 10,000 homeless, give or take, here of the last census. Placer County has 900. What are we doing wrong? Why are we a magnet?
Maybe this is a good segue to homelessness.
Why are we a
We have all
magnet
the
for
experts.
homeless? And then
We
we
have
gotta
our
support
sheriff.
it.
I'm going to take one more. Maybe I can ask our sheriff, lieutenants and deputies this evening. Lou, were you done? We could be here all night.
I'm done.
We could be here
I'm here.
all night.
Answer any questions.
Okay, stay here.
I like him.
Stay here. He's a good guy.
$1 million to work with, you can get something done.
I know how to handle my money, right? Yeah.
So we have Lieutenant Girdleston and Lieutenant Limber and Deputy Props, Deputy Brom, Deputy Amen, Deputy Rodriguez, and Sergeant Vittel. They're all here to support us and answer questions, and I'm going to let them decide who's going to speak. But I think this is the first night I got everyone's name, so I apologize I didn't introduce you guys appropriately in the past meetings. But these guys have been at several of my meetings this month, and they've been such a huge support. So thank you guys for coming, and take it away.
So my name is Mark Limbert. I'm the assistant commander for our North Patrol Station. Lieutenant Laurel Girdlestone is the operation commander. You have Sergeant Paul Jabelli. He is the POP sergeant. And then Deputy Gabe Rodriguez is one of the POP officers. Brian Amend was formerly one of the homeless outreach team members, recently transitioned over to our hot team. Scott Brom and Melissa Props are both assigned to our homeless outreach team. So I'll give you kind of a broad overview of what our North Patrol does, or what your sheriff's officers do for you, and who's assigned. And then we can kind of get into more of what the homeless outreach team does and answer any questions you may have. So your guys' patrol station, if nobody knows where it's at over at 5510 Garfield, which is where all the patrol officers are based out of. And our POP and homeless outreach teams are based out of 4510 Orange Grove. So the area that we serve in the community is, and this is the unincorporated area of Sacramento County. So the northern end is pretty much the Placer County line. The southern end is pretty much the river. The eastern border is right there, it's a Folsom, and the western border is about the Garden Highway, and that's unincorporated area. So you can see we have a relatively large area that your officers serve within the community. Within that, if we are completely and totally fully staffed, you would have 158 officers assigned out of that patrol division. And out of that 158, 140 of those are assigned as a patrol capacity function. I will tell you where our numbers are at right now. We're roughly about 95 officers day in, day out that are currently assigned and working. Now, our numbers are higher than that, but that's, when I say 95, that is not factoring officers that are maybe out on injury. And then it does not factor, and we have a total of 21 officers that are currently at various stages of the field training program, that once they finalize from that field training program, they will then in turn hit the streets and be able to work as a solo officer, which will then in turn bump our numbers up. So one of the things that a lot of the meetings and stuff that we go to that comes up in the two things I typically hear is, one is response times. I've called an officer and it took forever for us to get out there. Or B is some of the issues surrounding the homeless community. So I'll tell you kind of some of the things that have changed, especially since Sheriff Cooper came into office, and really looking at how can we provide better service to the community and to you folks. So the prior deployment model of how we field a patrol used to be based off of a team concept, and not really getting into it too much. What it entailed is you had 3 different shifts with an overlap day on those shifts. Each one was staggered days. And when we looked at that, really where our staffing at was not the most efficient way to provide service and really staff a patrol model. So back in probably the end of last year, beginning of January, we really took a deep dive into figuring out, okay, what is the best deployment model that we can employ to provide service. And we looked at 2 years worth of data and looking at the amount of the calls officers respond to, response times, and really what we broke it down to is we changed our patrol deployment model up north in North County to a 4-shift model. So meaning that you have a day shift team, you have a late days, a swing shift, and a graveyard with staggering days off. And when we really broke down and looked at that data, what we found is the busier times of the weeks for us, especially during those days, swings hours, was that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so midweek. So when we looked at the new deployment, we staffed that. So now with that late day swing shift, you have more officers working during those busier periods of time. And while we're not exactly where we want to be yet, what I can tell you is evaluating and looking at the CAD system, which is when a call comes into our dispatch, it gets inputted for an officer to go out and be assigned to. Before on, I'd say a swing shift, it was not uncommon for our officers to come in to a CAD system, especially during the summer. Sometimes they may be 25, 30, 40 calls down that they had to respond to and trying to play catch up. What we're seeing is with this new deployment model, there are days that they will come in that CAD will get all the way down to low and it's not stacking as high as what it did. Also with that redeployment model, what it enabled us to do was to build up our homeless outreach team and our problem-oriented policing team. So before Deputy Amend, under the old model, we had one homeless outreach team officer and a sergeant that they're assigned to the whole entire county. When we redeployed this, we now have, if we're fully staffed, we're sitting at 8. Right now we're at 7. We have 1 vacancy that we need to fill. That we're probably looking at doing, I'd say, beginning to middle of June. And the problem-oriented policing team, I think, is 6. We are 1 down, and same thing. We have a person that's selected, filling that roughly kind of about the same time. So that's like redeploying what that has really enabled us to do as far as deployment and services for the community. Now getting into the homeless outreach team, and I won't dive into too much, I'm going to let the experts talk about it. But really, when COVID hit and the health order came down, one of the big things was the homeless community in camps was really a hands-off approach and not going out, and COVID changed a lot of things. I will tell you what our department stance is on homelessness, and I will preface this, is homelessness in itself is not a crime. And I will tell you, there are folks within that community that are down on their luck, that are having a hard time and need housing. But what I will tell you, the overwhelming majority of folks that are living within that community is unfortunately surrounded around substance abuse and mental illness. And a lot of the mental illness is been brought on through substance abuse. And until we address those 2 issues, I'll be straightforward with you, I don't think you're going to see much change. So as a department, our stance on it is like I said, is homelessness itself is not a crime. But we will address the criminal component or criminal element that occurs within that community and also within your communities. So what that means is if there is an individual that's out there that is panhandling or blocking a street, we are going to enforce it. If there is somebody selling drugs within the community, we're going to enforce it. Or narcotics, we're going to enforce it. One of the big things is the homeless outreach team, our POP team, and a lot of our other specialized teams at the end of March went out and conducted an operation. and went into some of these communities and encampments and the larger ones that really had become a public safety issue. And they spoke to these folks. And one of the things that, one stat that I really want to bring to attention was, one of the questions that got asked was, hey, have you ever been a victim of sexual assault? And during that 7-day period, they found out they had 18 people that were willing to say, hey, I'd been a victim of sexual assault. The shocking number of that, out of that 18, there were only 4 that actually had reported it. So there is, like I said, there is a criminal element that does occur within that community. And with that, I'll pass it on to Deputy Props and Deputy Brom, and then if you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer as well.
Go ahead. Hi, I'm Deputy Props. I am the HOT team member. My area that I am responsible for is Antelope. I'm very passionate about the Antelope area. I handle Antelope, North Highlands, Alberta, and Rio Linda. We just started this team, as my lieutenant mentioned earlier, for over a year. Officer Amend was the only one in all of Sacramento County. Recently, last 2.5 months, we now have a team of 6, with the 1 vacancy we're still trying to fill. But in that team of 6, in the last 2.5 months, we've done a ton of things, especially in the Antelope community. Some of the things I want to talk about is what we've accomplished, and I'm sure you guys have probably noticed some differences over the last couple of months, especially in some of the more populated, like trafficky areas, Roseville Road for one example.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. That was a big project. We had, 15 to 30 trailers at any given time on Roseville Road between Antelope and Watt Avenue. That whole area, you will notice there are no trailers there. In fact, if you go in Sacramento County and in my district, which is from Antelope and Roseville Road, if you take the Roseville Road all the way down to I-80, you won't see any trailers or camps on those. Now, once you get to 80 and you keep going south, that's Sac PD, and I don't work for Sac PD. But in the Sheriff's Department in that area, it's been clean. We have places like over at Walmart and Home Depot who've been very, I'm sure you guys have noticed, there's so many panhandlers and so many people camping on the sidewalks behind Walmart, people stumbling all over the place because there's a lot of drugs, a ton of fentanyl over there. Over the last 2.5 months, we've done a ton of enforcement in that area. We've cleaned it with our special project that we had mentioned last month. We went out to Elkhorn, Rio Linda area, and then over here in the Antelope area, Alberta and Alberta, Watt Avenue by the Home Depot, or I'm sorry, the Walmart. What's some of the other ones we've had some big camps at?
The Dry Creek area, where it goes Dry Creek and Elkhorn, but we kind of got a combination with the park rangers out there, so we have to work with them because that Dry Creek itself is actually monitored by the park rangers. So we assisted them and started cleaning some of that stuff out, but we kind of worked in tandem with them at that location. We removed, I think it was about 7 tons of trash just by the Walmart and Home Depot, and that was last week.
Just under the bridge.
Just under the bridge.
The Antelope overpass. That was almost about 7 tons, and it took us 4 days to clean it up under the Antelope overpass.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Some of them have migrated into my area.
Sure, they're going to migrate everywhere.
And the thing about it is they leave their trash in the corner. They don't park in front of your house. They'll park, there's a long fence. In fact, I got pictures I took today.
Well, I'll address that. So one of the things that Ms. Frost was mentioning is the 311 app. On your 311 app, if you have a concern, one of the options is if you have somebody illegally camping or a trailer or something that's parked, illegally parked, you can address that on your 311 app and notify us, and it will come to us directly.
They're not illegally parked, but they're living in the house, in the car.
You can only stay parked on a roadway in the same spot no more than 72 hours, and you have to be illegally registered.
Then move from one area to
Yep.
They move 200 feet.
And again, being homeless isn't the crime.
No.
But we like to address the crimes that are happening as a result of the homelessness. Most of the people that we come in contact with, I'd say a vast majority of all of them, in the high 90s, have a drug addiction. And if they're not working and they're not paying taxes and they still have a drug addiction, they have to feed the drug addiction somehow. So there's a lot of crime that's associated with that. I can arrest people all day long, and I do. I really do. I have worked my butt off, and I'm doing the best I can because I grew up in this area. I love this area. My family lives in the area. So I love this area, and I'm committed to working as hard as I can to address as many concerns as I can, but I can only do so much, right? So I can go out and I can arrest people if they're breaking the law when they're dealing drugs. I'm going to get you to be a drug dealer and I will arrest you for it. Or if you're panhandling, a lot of these little crimes, I will cite you for it. Why? Because it matters. And I don't want people standing in the middle of the roadway. I don't want people selling drugs over by schools. I don't want them hanging out at your grocery store. My parents go grocery shopping out here. I don't want them going to the grocery store and being attacked by somebody who's high on drugs when they get out of their car. With that being said, if I arrest somebody, because there's no bail anymore in California, when I arrest somebody, even for lots of felonies, most felonies, when I take them to jail, they're probably going to be out of jail before I get off work today. And before I write the report, it's absolutely going to be done before I write the report, yes, they'll be out of
We
jail.
do have some good news to that, though.
Detective from Sacramento.
We've worked with the DA's office and we set up what's called the CORE program. So basically, and it's for targeting chronic offenders. So basically, after what it is 10 separate citations, so 10 separate misdemeanor incidences or warrants or felony arrests. Once they get to 10, then they're staying in jail. We ask for bail enhancement, it's granted, they go in front of a judge and they're offered the old kind of drug court program where you can get into a program or services where you serve basically up to a year in the county jail, to where they're not getting out that right away. Fortunately, I have to work within the laws that they give me.
So with this new program that we have in Sacramento County, it's unlike, there is no other program like this in California. Right now, I've done it every day. I've arrested the same person day in, every single day of my shift. Take them to jail, that person gets out before I get off work, and the next day, ironically, I find them in the same spot doing the same thing, and I'll take them to jail again, and they're out, and it's this revolving door. A lot of the homeless offenders, it's a lot of the same people doing the same crimes. So with this new CORE program that's exclusive with Sacramento County, what I love about it is that when you get to 10, you're right. But right now and everywhere else in California, it's none, right? I could arrest them every single day and they end up with 15 or 20 warrants and they're not staying in jail.
Yeah, you're career criminals.
Exactly. So with this new program, when they get to 10, and 10 is pretty simple. I mean, it can be something as if you're selling drugs, that's one. If you're a chronic offender and I'm looking at it, and it's the same people, and I know their names, I know their faces, I know them personally.
Why don't we start a new program where we handcuff them to the train tracks?
Thank you. So moving on. With the 10, simple crimes like if you see a homeless person and they're sleeping on the sidewalk, impeding the sidewalk, or they set up a camp and they're blocking the sidewalk, that's a misdemeanor crime. And it might seem petty, but I will go over to that person. I'm going to give them a citation because it's a misdemeanor crime. And if they get 10 citations or 10 felony arrests or 10 warrants or a combination of either of them, when they get to 10, they're going to go to jail and they're going to stay in jail. And there's no other county in California that's implementing this. So I will do as much as I can to keep your streets safe, and with what I can do. And with our sheriff, he's doing a great job of working with the DA and trying to come up with some kind of a program, since people have voted to not have a bail system. Our vote matters.
I saw that alert.
I do want to tell you guys thank you, and I'll tell you that anyway. You're talking about the Home Depot area. I was just at Home Depot this past Saturday with my wife, and we had just come from Green Acres in Loomis up there. We went down to Home Depot to stop to buy some fertilizer. So we already had some purchases in the bed of my truck and all that. So we get there, we get out of the truck, we start walking the store. 5 seconds after we're out of the truck, some homeless dude on a skateboard starts skating around my truck, checking out everything that's in the bed of the truck. And then he gets on his phone like he's calling his accomplices to come help carry out all our stuff. So I told my wife, I said, you got to go in there and shop. I got to sit on the truck here, otherwise we're going to have problems. So anyway, 20 minutes goes by, and then all of a sudden 3 sheriff's cars show up with all their lights flying on. They're looking for somebody, and they're driving around that whole parking lot, and one of them goes flying through the field and all that. Old Mr. Skateboarder got awful nervous and left the area.
So we're in that area, because this is my area, my district. I'm in that parking lot every single day. It's a point, and a lot of my coworkers are the same way, because there's a lot of drugs over there. There's a lot of fentanyl, there's a lot of drug use. So I hope that you see some kind of an impact, because we are working, again, it's only been 2 months that we've had a full team, right? Unfortunately, it's only been one person, and that was a lot of work for one person over the last year and a half. So having 6 people on our team for the entire Sacramento County, I'd love to have more. It'd be a lot Not
Yeah, your
not better.
staffing seems low. I thought the standard was 1 officer per 1,000 residents. Highlands-Antelope would be 40 officers because we're 40,000 people.
Can't answer that question.
I work in Folsom, they have 80 cops for 80,000 people.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm curious, is the sheriff interested at all in providing, in enforcing, in, I don't know, city council as well, or, excuse me, county supervisors are interested in doing a no overnight camping ordinance for the entire county? Are they gonna, is that something they're gonna be, like, he's not here, so obviously.
Not that I am aware of, but.
I can tell you that we have grappled with the homeless situation over time. In 2018, in the October or so of 2018, the Ninth Circuit Court came down with a decision that said you cannot move a homeless person unless they're committing a crime or destroying vegetation or on private property, you know, or unless you have a place to take them. And so that put everyone on guard as if to say, okay, that's a legal precedent and we could get sued. And Sacramento County in the past has been sued by homeless people. There was an attorney, I forget the attorney's name, who brought together 11 homeless people who sued our county, and we settled, and each homeless person got a couple thousand. And we then were agreed under a settlement to provide notice and not move their stuff unless we provided notice. So now we have to tag it and give them time to remove their stuff, and then we have to come back. And so we have limitations in Sacramento County by virtue of prior legal settlements that other counties around us do not have. And it gives homeless people a little extra right that they may not have in another county. And so we can't just go in and move them. And we can't, and it's difficult to write an ordinance that says you can't be homeless, because it's not, like the lieutenant said, it's not illegal to be homeless. For some people, it's a lifestyle choice.
But that's my ultimately my point, is these are people that want help. These are people that are choosingly wanting to live outside, and we've provided that time.
So I'll tell you where you saw big change with things, and you heard me say earlier, a lot of this, you know, your underlying issue is substance abuse and you know, mental health. Back in about 14, when Prop 47 passed and changed, and really what changed with that is you saw your dollar amounts for felony vandalism and your thefts get raised, and then you saw your drug offenses go from what used to be felonies, you know, pretty much down to misdemeanors and something that you would issue a citation for. And the biggest thing that changed with that was before, like I can tell you, back when I worked patrol, if somebody had narcotics on them, I could go out, I could arrest them, I could take them down to jail. Then in turn, once they went into jail, they pretty much had two options. They could say, hey, you know what, I want to get treatment and go through a drug diversion program, or no, this is my lifestyle, I don't want to change it. And the other side was the custody setting, and whatever time came down to their sentence, they served it. When Prop 47 came down and hit, well, it changed all that. So it really took away a dynamic of getting folks in, of breaking a cycle to get them into treatment and into different programs. Because what I will tell you, just in my experience of working out, is ultimately if you have somebody that's addicted to a substance, they are not going to change until I can throw whatever I want at them until they want to change. And ultimately, a lot of times that takes either A, hitting rock bottom, or getting them out of that environment and breaking that cycle enough to where they're sober enough, where then in turn they maybe want to go, you know, change their life or the pattern they're going down. What I will tell you, one of the things that the homeless outreach team does as well is when they go out and they go to these folks and speak with them and go to these camps, they do ask them if they want services. We've got cards and pamphlets that they will hand out to these folks. I will tell you the overwhelming majority of folks they contact don't want anything to do with services. There are some that do, and we have one of our deputies who's a retired annuitant that it can go out if we say, hey, we find somebody that wants services that has connections that he will literally drive them to a place to get them in somewhere to try and break the cycle. What I will tell you is the current system, the way things have gotten to where they are, is absolutely broken. It's not a humane way of dealing with a problem. I mean, we can sit here all day long and say, hey, let's throw housing at it, but until we address the root cause of it, it's not going to change it. And it's not, there's multiple elements to this problem. It's not one element that will fix it.
And the good news is that the county is cognizant of that. We have had to take a hard look at what we're doing, and we're trying to make adjustments. We have added a lot of drug rehab, mental health beds, in-house mental health beds, the assistant outpatient treatment, Laura's Law, which won't work for a lot of people, but for the ones it will work for, the seriously mentally ill, they've had a lot of success in other areas with that. It's basically like they go before the, interviews with psychiatrists and social workers, and they go through a series of opportunities to accept treatment, and if they don't accept it, they go then before the judge with the black robe, who basically tells them, you have to do this. And at that point, some of them do opt in to that outpatient treatment, which gives them a very huge amount of services, wraparound services, people calling, how are you doing, did you take your medications, showing up for counseling, and they've had good success with that. So that's one other, we're trying to, we've also had some clinics, core clinics. We have one in Citrus Heights called Core Marigold, where it's actually a facility that a nonprofit is contracted with the county, and if you have a homeless person who wants to come in, you can drop them off. You can walk them over there, and they have counseling services, and they can connect them to just about everything from mental health services, drug rehab, food, job placement, housing, it covers a myriad, but the nice thing is that if you catch them in that moment, you can drop them off. And we have those popping up around the county. So we are investing in new ideas and trying to think outside the box in ways that will help the community have a place to take these people, a place, to give it, when they're ready, you want to get them when they're ready to do it.
And I will say, just kind of piggyback what Supervisor Frost is saying, is there are some new organizations and different resources that we've recently learned about, where if we come across somebody who's in a state of crisis or who is under the influence, that we're able to take them, if they would like to go, take them to this location with the hope of trying to connect them with those services. So there are some different things that are occurring and resources that are coming available to help kind of address some of the problems.
Does that only apply to homeless people, or can it be?
No, so there is one resource that's out there that law enforcement does have access to. So if you have somebody that would say, I'll say is in a state of crisis that maybe doesn't meet the 5150 criteria, and we say, hey, we can take you down to this place, or they're under the influence, and we say, hey, we can take you down here to speak with some people that maybe can get you connected, and they're willing to go, we're able to do that. One of the things that we also have is we have our CIT team, which is a deputy that's paired up with a mental health clinician that will go out and they respond to mental health calls, or a call where somebody's in a state of crisis, and go out and talk with these folks and family members, and they have, with that mental health clinician that's there, access to resources, because really the goal is getting that long-term help, right? Is we can come in and put a Band-Aid something and fix it, but it's getting folks connected with that long-term help and care to hopefully kind of get them where they need to be, or break some of those cycles.
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say thank you. I live off of Antelope North, and it was starting to get very, very concerning there.
We have grandchildren, and it just was not a place I could take them to the park there anymore. And I've been driving Antelope for 7, 8 years now, and I was very worried about people jumping out in front of the car, watching them dart back and forth against the light, and it was scary. So I just want to say thank you.
And I mean, I'll tell you this, you guys have an amazing group of men and women that not only work for the North Patrol, but I will tell you, for our department, that truly care about the community, that come in, day out, that really truly want to, some of the issues and things that are occurring, to come in and make a difference with things. And I mean, I can't speak highly enough about the folks that work within our patrol teams, our homeless outreach and POP teams. They are the folks that are doing the day in, day out job. And really, our ask to you is, as you see some of the things pop up, or you're starting to see a large encampment form, is let our hot teams know, whether it's an email to them or through the 311 app, because then maybe they're able to get out there and contact some of these folks. See other some folks, do they want services or want to get connected with it? The problems start to really arise is when these get really, really large, and what we don't want is, like I said, we don't want the criminal element coming in that's one is preying upon that homeless community, but the other part is also preying upon the community where they're at.
Have you seen, what's the success rate for when you do provide wraparound services, or when you do take them to these organizations? Have you seen any results of that?
I will say that for every person that we contact, our goal, the first thing we do is we ask them if they want help, right? And I offer them all the services. If do you want to get clean right now, I can get you into someplace to get you clean. Unfortunately, a high 90% of them don't want any services, and they don't want to get clean. So for the ones that do want to, it's not very high.
And I can tell you on the assisted outpatient treatment in San Francisco Bay Area, 30% of those who opt in cross over to sustainable living. So everyone considers that to be, but the number that you get to that point is probably under 100 a year. So, but those are the most expensive homeless people because they're the seriously mentally ill. So, well, you guys, we are 15 minutes over, and I don't see any other hands, so I want to thank everyone.
I just have one quick.
Okay, one last.
Okay, and this is dealing with the stores. I was in Food Max, and I was at a counter paying, and then the guy ran out with some stuff, and all the guy could do was say, hey, enjoy that free food, you know? And so I'm kind of wondering how much of that goes on, and if you guys have anything to do with kind of controlling that, or because what I'm afraid of is that I kind of, in my mind, I start thinking about like San Francisco, stores closing, and I would really be kind of worried if like Food Max closes, or some of these stores start closing, Walmart closes because of so much theft.
And what I will tell you is, so 2 parts to that. One is it's because it's a private business, it's whatever that store's policy is, and what's coming from the company. Some businesses have a hands-off, some don't. As far as if we come out, say somebody steals something and they call us and they catch that individual. The store, because a lot of times, depending on the dollar value, but a majority of these times, it doesn't meet the threshold for a felony crime. So which means it's a misdemeanor if it didn't occur in our presence. Then whoever that representative of the store, and a lot of times it's loss prevention, has to say, yes, we want to press charges, which then we are then in turn able to issue that citation. The answer to that question, and the reason why I smiled with it a little bit, is unfortunately, that problem is becoming much larger and larger. And again, a lot of it goes back to, some of this is, that passage of Prop 47 and changing your dollar amounts, that factored into it. What I will tell you, in the promise that we will try and make to you, and I can speak to, again, Sheriff Cooper's vision, is having your patrol division staffed and our folks out there is a big priority. Our goal is to not, what you're seeing, have that occur within Sacramento County. And as we get more folks out and staff, really another part of that, part of it was reducing the call volume and the response time, because I get how frustrating it can be is, hey, you call a law enforcement officer and sometimes it can take a long time. And I will tell you, when it would get busy, we have to prioritize it basically of life. And if it's, say, your car got broken into, I'm not saying that that's not important, it is important. But we're gonna go to where there is the potential danger or loss of life or injury to it, that's how it's gonna be prioritized. But with that structure of rechanging our deployment models, it was two-part. One is looking at how do we drop our response times, but the other part is how do we free up our officers to go out and be able to be proactive within the community to address some of these concerns, so we don't get to a situation where we end up in a problem like that.
Thank you.
I made one quick comment. I want to say thank you also, because I did call the sheriff a couple weeks ago when this guy was going around in our court opening cars and the response time. At first I was like, no, I shouldn't even call, it's gonna take forever. I'm gonna be honest, though, it's gonna take forever. The last time I called it, I don't even think anybody came. Anyways, they were there within 5 minutes. I had three sheriffs that came in within 5 minutes, and they were looking around for the perpetrator. But anyways, I just wanted to say thank you, and definitely whatever you did, your deployment shifts is working.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. And thank you to our sheriff. How about if we give them a big hand? Okay, well, thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you for cleaning up over the road. Yeah, thank you.
We're not done yet.
Yes, but it's
Work in
better.
progress.